They say the truth always comes out, but what if you were the one who had to face it head-on, tearing apart everything you thought you knew about love and trust? What if your whole world came crashing down in an instant, leaving you to rebuild from the ashes of betrayal? This is the story of that moment. A moment that changed everything. I had always believed in the idea of forever. I thought love was something you built, brick by brick, until it became this unshakable foundation that could withstand any storm. And for a long time, I thought I had found that with her, Emily. We had been together for 2 years, a picture of happiness. We shared everything, dreams, ambitions, even the bakery that had been her lifelong passion. My role in the bakery was simple but vital. I was her assistant. I didn't mind it. I enjoyed seeing her face light up every time she perfected a new recipe or received praise from a customer. But there was always one thing that I couldn't shake: my own passion. I loved voice acting. It wasn't something I could abandon just to help in the bakery full-time. But over time, I started to resent the fact that I wasn't living my own dreams, even if it meant the business was successful. Emily, on the other hand, poured everything into it, and at times I felt lost in her shadow. Things started to shift when I noticed small changes. Emily seemed distant, distracted, more focused on the bakery than me. I thought it was just stress from work, but it didn't sit right with me. When I confronted her about it, she brushed it off. I didn't think much of it. Who would? It was just a phase, right? But I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was off. One day, while I was helping out in the bakery, a familiar customer walked in. Let's call him AP. He'd been a regular for years, always polite, always a bit charming. But that day, something was different. He seemed off, disappointed even. He glanced over at the back room where Emily was busy working, and then he looked at me. He barely acknowledged my presence, just a curt nod as he placed his order. He was ordering a birthday cake for his daughter. Nothing unusual. But what caught my attention was his lingering glance toward the back room. I didn't think much of it at the time. After all, he was just a customer. But when I mentioned his visit to Emily, I noticed a strange flicker in her eyes. She seemed disappointed, even upset. Is something wrong? I asked, half-heartedly, knowing full well that this wasn't just about a cake order. It's nothing, she replied, her voice distant as she focused on kneading dough. Just customers, you know? I love talking to them, but sometimes it gets tiring. I didn't press further. After all, I was eager to get back to my voice acting work, but deep down, I couldn't ignore the feeling that something wasn't right. The next day, things escalated. Emily's phone buzzed on the counter while she was busy in the back room, her hands covered in flour. I went to check it, thinking it was probably a work-related message. But when I glanced at the screen, my heart sank. It was a text from AP. Let's meet again tonight, when my wife and kids are out. I miss being close to you. The words blurred in front of my eyes. My hands trembled as I read the next message. I can't stop thinking about you. I could barely process what I was seeing, but I knew I had to confront her. I scrolled through the messages, explicit content, flirtatious exchanges, and what could only be described as evidence of an affair. A sick feeling settled in my stomach. How had I not noticed this sooner? My heart raced. I had to act fast, but first I needed answers. I walked into the back room where Emily was still busy with the cake. I couldn't contain the anger building inside me. Who's AP? I demanded, my voice sharp. She looked up, startled. What do you mean? I slammed the phone on the counter. This isn't just a cake order, is it? Don't lie to me, Emily. I know what's going on. Her face was drained of color. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She was caught. Explain it to me, I growled. How long has this been going on? Why didn't you tell me? I don't know, she whispered, her voice shaking. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I was beyond reason now. I didn't care about her explanations. The betrayal was too deep. My world had shattered in an instant, and I wasn't ready to put the pieces back together. I'm done, I said coldly. I want nothing to do with this. She tried to follow me, but I could hear her friend, the one who had always been there for her, whispering from the back room. Get dressed first, the friend said, almost too calmly. I could see the guilt on her face. I walked out of the bakery, the weight of her lies heavy on my shoulders. I couldn't believe I had been so blind. When I got home, I immediately called Emily's sister. I needed to tell someone, anyone. I couldn't carry this weight alone. As I recounted the events, I heard a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. "Not again," her sister muttered, her voice trembling. "Not again." I didn't understand what she meant, but I didn't have time to ask. Emily's sister hung up on me soon after that. I was left to process everything alone. I called Emily's parents next. They were devastated. She had done this before, they told me, but they thought this time would be different. They were wrong. The truth was harder to swallow than anything else. It's been over a year since that day. I still remember it like it was yesterday. The pain, the disbelief, the anger, it all hit me like a freight train. But somehow, I've made it through. I joined a few support groups, people who had been through the same thing. It wasn't easy at first, but over time, I learned how to let go of the anger and focus on healing. I started focusing on my career. Voice acting became my escape, my way of reclaiming myself. I learned to take pleasure in the small things again. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. 5 months ago, I ran into Emily again. She was desperate, eager to explain herself. She had a million excuses, all boiled down to one ridiculous claim: she was bored. "Bored," I repeated, incredulous. "You destroyed everything we had because you were bored?" She tried to justify it, to make me see things from her perspective, but I wasn't having it. "I'm not coming back to you," I told her firmly. "I'd rather live in a pigsty than go back to that." She tried to guilt me into helping her, asking me to tell her family that she hadn't cheated. She spun her web of lies once again, but this time I wasn't buying it. "You're on your own," I told her, looking her in the eye, "and don't think for a second I'll go along with your lies." That's when she tried to turn the tables. She started shouting in public, trying to gather a crowd and accuse me of treating her unfairly. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I had nothing to hide. I looked around, making sure the people gathered could hear me clearly. "She cheated on me," I said, my voice steady, "and I'm not going to let her lie about it. If you don't believe me, I'll call her parents as witnesses." The crowd went quiet. Emily's face turned bright red, and she bolted, disappearing into the crowd. I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. It was over. Things didn't end there. My ex-wife, Emily, had always been deeply involved in the bakery. It was her passion, her dream. But when I discovered her affair with AP, it tore everything apart. I took a drastic step. I reported the affair to the health department. The bakery was soon under investigation, and it wasn't long before customers began leaving in droves. The scandal spread like wildfire. It didn't take long for the town to catch wind of what had been going on behind closed doors. Emily's world came crashing down. The bakery was shut down, and she had no choice but to leave. She packed up her things and disappeared, leaving me with nothing but memories of what had once been a dream we built together. With the money from selling the house and the bakery, I started fresh. I found a new place to call home, a place that was just for me. It even had a perfect little home office for my voice acting career. I no longer had to live in the shadow of someone else's dreams. In the end, I learned a powerful lesson. Sometimes, we have to let go of what we thought we needed to find out who we truly are. The betrayal I experienced was painful, but it made me stronger. And today, I'm proud of where I've ended up. Betrayal is a cruel reality, one that shakes the very foundation of trust. But through it all, we learn about ourselves and our strength. Sometimes, letting go is the hardest but most necessary thing we can do.